You're watching Cooler Talk with Rhonda and Cynthia. And today we have a big topic to ask
Yeah,
you.
we're getting philosophical today. And
We're
not
asking big
religious.
questions.
This is not a religious conversation.
No, no,
Just to
no,
clarify
it's not
that.
religious, but I would say that there's a certain spirituality, or there has to be, at least from my standpoint, this question has a layered interpretation to it, you know.
Please continue.
Well, okay, so it's no secret that I work a regular job in an office, and, certainly the question comes up sometimes like, why am I here? Why am I listening to all of these people's problems or, trying to solve these things that aren't really problems? Like, what's this really about? And, I do find myself in a place where I have to remind myself that this is actually part of a greater thing, which is, my human experience, Cynthia's human experience. And, as long as I am conscious of or aware that I have made a conscious decision to be in that, with that company, and to be working in that context, if I don't remind myself that I've made that conscious decision to do that, then I can see how it's very easy to get disgruntled, maybe even, go adrift. I do think it's kind of an anchor to understand like why you're doing certain things in your human experience. So So I do think it kind of should include both. I don't know if it's. I mean, I don't think I'm a religious person, but I do think I'm spiritual in that I do think that there's some kind of energy that we can't see that does kind of influence the way we experience our lives. So that felt like a mouthful. What do you think, Rhonda?
I'm certainly not going to disagree with you. Um, Definitely, uh, I having worked 25 years in an office and out of an office, even more. I've sometimes wondered what am I doing here?
Here.
Because there's so many dynamics that go on outside of the self
Hmm.
that you have no power or control over. Um, and I think that no matter what we do, it's important to have a sense of purpose
Yeah.
about with respect to what we're how we're contributing.
Yeah.
And is that contribution something that's fulfilling?
Yeah.
And also to be able to um, kind of have a little shield around us to protect us from hostile
Distractions.
hostile distractions, because each individual has their own reason for doing things,
Hmm.
and it normally has everything to do with them and
Hmm.
nothing to do with you, although some will make you a target
Yeah.
for whatever reason. Um, so it's important, I think, why am I here? To be able to focus on purpose, um, focus on contribution,
Hmm.
focus on your value as a human and individual,
Hmm.
and to learn how to interact with people who don't have your best interest at heart.
Mhm.
And I've experienced all of those things, which is why I choose not to work in an office anymore. There are just too many dynamics going on, and
Yeah,
responsible for other people's actions and behavior.
yeah,
We are responsible in how we allow people to treat us.
right. And how we respond to that moment in time.
That's
Um,
yeah.
One of the things that you said kind of like triggered a thought for me, which was really like something that actually happened just last week, but I know it's happened to me a million times before. And it's when you are invited to a meeting that you have no role in. It's like people just pick, maybe it's just because it's so easy to like click on a variety of names in your Outlook contacts bar or whatever, but they click on all these names and I have to carve out time from my calendar to sit in on this meeting. And then I'm like, I'm not even sure why I was invited to this meeting. I have nothing to contribute. You're not about to assign me something. Like, I just don't see why you assign me to this thing. And I realized, and it happened about 3 times last week. And then also, they also invited me to meetings where on the other side, I was a key person for that meeting, but then they tended to book those meetings exactly when I had another meeting going on, which you can see to each other's calendars. So it's like,
I don't understand that.
I don't understand it either, but
That,
it did trigger the thought of why am I here? And where I had to start to say to myself, actually, I can set clear boundaries. I don't have a role to play here, or I do have a role to play here. And so then maybe you should look at my calendar and see when I'm available rather than book something when I'm not available. And so it was an opportunity to kind of like help me, like you said, create that shield, but also to be conscious of that shield. That, like, I don't have to bend every time somebody invites me to something.
well, that's right. And another thing is respecting your time.
Hmm.
I'm hearing that very loudly,
Hmm.
and I have sat in more meetings in my lifetime that were a complete waste of time. They were unproductive. Uh, I felt that I don't know. I would just be sitting there going, "Why are we here?"
Hmm.
And I just have, I've observed over the years a complete lack of respect of other people's time. Um, Now, I don't know. I don't even know where to go with that.
Well, I think though, so now we've kind of talked about like a day in the life of a regular Joe or a regular Jill. And, like we all have our moments where we're kind of like, what the heck are we doing here? And like, why are we having this experience? And, I know that I made a decision to go back to a corporate environment because I wanted the security of and the predictability of a regular paycheck. But I also chose to go there because I love what I get to do there when I get to do that. And so it also helped me kind of frame my boundaries a little bit better. Like, if you don't need a writer for this assignment, don't invite me. And that they don't have to take it personally either. I'm just going to decline your invitation, and if you really do need me, then you'll find a time when I'm available. And so that kind of had me thinking, okay, why am I here in the greater context of this company? I'm here because I can do what I love to do. And then that kind of like feeds into the why am I here in this life? Why am I here having the Cynthia Luna experience? Well, it's because I want to like see things. I want to meet people. I want to have conversations. I want to write about it. And And ultimately, I really want to enjoy myself. That's kind of my purpose. It's not that deep, but it is something that I do have to remind myself of, because when I do get upset about people not respecting my calendar boundaries, I'm moving even further away from my true purpose, which is just to enjoy myself,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So I guess it was like a very, like I said, I thought I was going to talk about this on several layers, but that's kind of how my experience has been lately. It's been layered. I'll have like the everyday Cynthia experience at this level with its conflicts and its distractions and its disturbances and, the stuff that happens. Um, and then, but I'll also kind of have that like higher level learning, I guess, which is just sort of like, oh wait, I believe that I'm having a life experience for a reason, and
Yes,
I should do this.
and I was thinking about that. Why are we here? What is my purpose? And we can't answer it for other people, um, not at all. But I can tell you that at this stage of the game, I am here to learn about love. I'm here to learn about compassion. I'm here to learn about patience, kindness. The tough one is tolerance. Um, and I'm here to learn about loving myself. And what I have learned is this: without loving myself, it's real hard to be able to love other people. Um, so uh,
I
that's
like the
all where
tolerance.
I'm at this point. And to send positivity where I can to people that I'm exposed to, but also learn to walk away from people that are destructive.
Yeah, and
It's teaching me, that's why I mentioned about what I'm hearing is a lack of respect for your time.
mm,
And uh, so I don't think people are even aware of it. I don't
I
think
don't
they
think so
think it's,
either.
yeah, I don't think it's a conscious thing.
Mm-mm,
Um, but if But the beautiful thing about that is, though, is if we notice it, then there's one place where we can integrate change, and that's within ourselves
for sure,
and what we do.
for sure,
And and hopefully we're a positive walking example to other people.
for sure, for
So
sure.
yeah, it's just that the people I've interacted with over the years, and the contrasts that we're exposed to throughout life. So,
Hmm.
how do you know about love if you haven't seen or experienced hatred? And I don't know if they're necessarily opposite, but um, it's easily identifiable if you're paying attention.
Yeah,
And yes, CC, it is a new dawn for you coming to learn. We are here to enjoy the human experience.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And see, yeah, I would agree. It's the opposite of what we initially learned. Um, Definitely. And Lee, yes, people are very distracted by too many things happening all at once around them, and technology and so forth. And like I was saying earlier about learning to put that protective barrier around us, we all have, what is it, like a 24 or 26-foot energy field around
mhm,
us, and we we can learn what can come into that energy field and
mhm,
what cannot come into that energy field. But it's life's experiences that teaches us those things. And And I think we have become and develop a higher consciousness if we're open and willing to learn.
Hmm. And I think I really appreciate everything that you said, especially about the 26-foot sort of energy field around you, and kind of realizing that, like, we aren't really separate from the things outside of ourselves, that, like, we are sort of part and parcel to all of the energies that are fulfilling their roles in this life experience, and Cynthia's human experience is just like the smallest fragment of all that. And that, like, for me, I have to say it's a nice kind of reminder, to it's a nice reminder to sort of circle back to, like, ultimately I really just want to, like, experience a new taste and see a new world, or even just see a beautiful rose anew. Which, by the way, my sweetheart brought me roses last week, and they
Oh,
are still as fresh as ever.
just an angel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
Lee
is. He is.
mentioned it's hard living with someone who has dementia. And as I think you may know, Lee, that I was the caregiver for my mother for 2 years and 10 months.
I did not know that.
Yes, and she had dementia, and that it is very hard to stay focused, and you have to learn how to be able to detach and take a break.
Yeah,
And it's different for every individual, but it is hard living with someone with dementia because they're on a whole nother plane,
yeah,
and you have to somehow bring you have to kind of imagine their world and interact with them from their perspective.
yeah.
And
And for
there are other things too, because I had a very positive experience with my mother, but not everybody has a very positive experience. She was very sweet to take care of, and yeah, to guide others even with dementia. Um, Hello, Daniel. Nice to see you. Um, yeah,
well,
they can bump your energy. They can drain your energy, and you need to have a respite to regroup because that element of detachment is so critical. Because that with that element of detachment, I mean, for me, I'll cover my heart, and in a way that kind of, for me, bounces stuff off. I'm not letting
mhm,
it in there, and it does give me some perspective and gives me of um, just a moment of
of silence.
respite, if you will. I didn't have a lot of support, uh, but I did have one or two friends, God bless them, that would come in and watch over mom for several hours just while I got out. And I'm so grateful for one of them in particular. The rest I had to hire, but I had an actual friend that really, um,
Well, one critical lesson or experience about, like, you knew why you were there helping your mother during this time, during her dementia.
my mission
It
was to make her life as easy as possible during
possible.
her final days until I physically could not handle it anymore because she was starting to lose balance and slip out of chairs and things, and I had to call for help to lift her because I couldn't do it.
Yeah. And for you, really, I think the experience that you were exploring at that time was also compassion, because being able to, like, love yourself and sort of stay solid in that space for yourself as a loved one is even struggling to recognize you, that's that is a commitment to yourself, that you can still enter that space, as tough as it might be, because sometimes your relatives with dementia, they don't know who you are, and maybe some of their less than loveliest aspects of themselves show themselves.
Yeah, it can happen, and I think uh, I think I was looking at what Lee said about trying to maintain love in spite of interruptions.
For sure.
I believe the love is there, that the love never goes away, but it is difficult sometimes to practice compassion.
Yeah.
Um, and you need to take care of yourself too, because you can't take care of someone else if you're not taking care of yourself first.
Yeah.
It does go hand in hand, and to be able to recognize when one needs help and reach out to get help, letting people know I need air. Can you come in and help me out?
Yes, expressive love for
Um,
sure. That that definitely, those moments come up for me, in an office setting where, let's just say, the the depth of relationships is a bit more superficial than, one that can really challenge you, like with your family, or chosen loved ones. But yeah, for sure,
I
for
really,
sure.
and the older I get, I didn't understand it when I was younger, just because I was young and naive. But in many ways, I believe we're here to be of service to others. And being to others can be as simple as practicing kindness wherever we can, and walking away when we had to. Like when I was taking care of my mom, sometimes
That's
I
an
would
act
push
of
her.
self-love.
Yeah, I would push her just a little too hard sometimes, and she would start getting angry. And then I just would look at her, and I would just turn around and leave the room. And I'd come back 5 minutes later, completely different person.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
um, arguing is futile. It only, well, of course, in any situation, it only exasperates the situation. But it was very interesting because I experimented a lot with her on things that worked and things that didn't work, and got very creative.
Uh,
That leaving the room one was very effective. Um, uh, Her mood would change within 5 minutes because she forgot she forgot what she was worked up about. Um,
I
and
might tear a page from that book actually, because I'm sure, no, I know that in, say, the office context where you get like irritated, like, how dare you invite me to a meeting that it's already conflicting with another meeting or something. I should just like step up, walk out of the room, and then kind of re-enter the room and be like, sorry, I can't make it. Can you find another time slot? And leave it at that, and not carry like, I don't know, not carry like the petty stuff, because like I was saying, these aren't, the depth of love and the depth of, the way that we relate with each other is not as intense as it is with a family member, but it is a good playground to protect your boundaries, respect yourself, show love for yourself, and also maybe just give the other person a little latitude, give them a break. Like maybe they're so overwhelmed with whatever that they just neglected to blink. So I like that tip. Just step out of the room, come back, and
yeah, well, and you might want in a business situation, you might want to excuse yourself.
I might want to what?
You might want to excuse yourself. Let them know you're leaving the room, if you will. Excuse me, I'll be right back.
Or
Uh,
excuse me,
and
but
I
I have
would
to
do
go
that.
somewhere else.
Huh?
If it's a meeting that I don't even need to be in, it's like, excuse me, but I have to go. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
truly.
that could be interpreted as rudeness. I mean, we're having an open conversation here.
Yeah.
Um, That
But
it could be, but you're living in Switzerland, so how people perceive actions and behavior might be completely different than over here in the United States.
it
Yeah,
could
that's
be.
right, Cynthia. Yeah,
But ultimately, I think there is, I think what you're rubbing on against is, it could be seen as a selfish act and potentially disrespectful. But it's just as disrespectful to expect people to sit in for an hour on a discussion that really does not require certain people.
yeah. It's a hard call because you're an employee now, not an
Hmm.
independent contractor like you were before. So that's why I'm an independent contractor,
Hmm.
because I'm tired of people telling me what to do all the
Yeah,
time, and it's not always reasonable.
yeah,
And sometimes it's about control,
yeah.
uh, and in
I
individual.
think, I think there's a certain amount of, I think it is a important message to say, you know what, I care about myself enough to say I don't need to be here. And I think over the long run, it's more about, you know, we all should respect each other, ideally. Unfortunately, not everybody does that or cares. And if exactly the person who, is rude all the time and does those types of things, if they're the ones who get offended, maybe it'll make them think twice
But
about
okay, however,
inviting that person who will walk out of a meeting that they do not have a reason to be in.
it's dangerous to think that way because now these friggin' egos get involved. And now there's this push pull, okay, you see where I'm going with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You mentioned the E word, which is what this book is all about.
Oh, Eckhart Tolle, I love him.
This book, it makes things so clear, and I have learned a lot about not carrying it with you. Don't have a grudge.
Right.
You can really leave a room politely and not have any hard feelings, and you can really experience things anew.
Would you type the name of that book because it addresses how to deal with your ego? Can you type the name of that book by Eckhart in the chat box, please? Yeah, I love Eckhart Tolle. I know Cynthia Callahan. Have you read any of Eckhart Tolle's books? Lee, I wouldn't be surprised if you had. Um, so
Right?
glad you guys
Most
found it.
people have read The Power of Now by him. Um, this book is just as good. I lost myself doing that work. I failed to care for myself. Caregiving, yeah. I don't know. I think I mentioned on one of these deals that I had also worked on death penalty issues with people who had served time on death row. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people who work for nonprofits and advocacy organizations in a caretaking role, that, really the first job is how to care for yourself when you're in a caregiving role. And when you're in a role where you have to, expend a lot of emotional energy um, in service of others, and that's a discipline. That's a discipline.
Yeah, it really is. Um, Without a doubt.
I got slammed by a gentleman's ego yesterday in a group. He needs this book, and yes, I've read many of his books. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, the egos. Oh my God, these friggin' egos are just ridiculous. But once you have to laugh. And I talked about a situation I was in one time, and this was after I had to put mom in assisted living, and I actually witnessed. Let's see, how old was I at the time? Let's say 63. 75-year-old man throwing
A
a
tantrum.
2-year-old temper tantrum in front of me, including foot stomping. It
Hmm.
was everything I could do to keep from laughing.
Yeah.
I'm
Why?
going to
Why'd you keep from
practice
laughing?
compassion here and respect somebody's habit. Oh, yes. Yeah, Lee. Oh, I know it does throw you off balance. But when you practice the pause,
Hmm.
when you practice the pause, all of a sudden you get an instant different perspective,
Yeah.
and you're looking at the person like you're watching a movie or something.
Yes. Yeah.
Completely detached, going, I can't believe you thinking in your head, am I really witnessing this?
Yes.
And then the next thought is, okay, practice compassion, practice compassion. What an asshole. Practice compassion. And these, it is funny. It's hilarious. If people could see themselves objectively when they behaved like that, I would imagine they would be extremely embarrassed
Hmm.
because they look so stupid.
Yep. For sure.
And but you don't you're not being very compassionate or loving by bringing it to their attention. I remember watching this scenario, and I looked over at my mom, and she just rolled her eyes. And because we both have this person's number, I mean, a long time ago we figured out he's a narcissist. And so I just waited till it stopped, and I just looked at my mom. I said, Mom, I hope you understand. I said, I think I'm going to go to the house for a while, and I'll come back later.
Hmm.
Maybe, we can visit alone. And then another person chased me down the hall saying, you two are all you have, and you're the only family. And I'm sitting there going, am I really witnessing all of this stuff?
Yeah.
So I had a chance to see codependency in action. And fortunately, I've had a lot of training about that. And it was just like, okay, we just don't need to argue. I'm just going to excuse myself and say, I'm leaving for a while. And okay, so you feel that way. And of course, I had to behave myself because he could have a heart attack at any position, any minute, because he's so high anxiety. And later on, he had hip replacement surgery, and I'm going, well, I guess I wasn't there to blame for him dying because I upset him.
Somebody was.
Oh
Somebody
no,
was.
yeah, well, I heard about it that he was just really ugly to the nurses. And,
Yeah.
long story. Oh, Lee, you did. What did he say, Lee? But I don't think they're capable of seeing themselves because they're so in here in their own heads that they can't see themselves. Maybe later on it's possible.
Certainly, and certainly as long as you're there, they're not seeing themselves
Right.
because they're casting all that blame out there, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to help you.
Yeah. Oh, Cynthia, Count Cece. Yeah, another reason you're here for your spirit to get loving control of your ego. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, Oh, that's funny, Lee. You've been laughing at my response that I was not able to do.
Surprise, surprise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love yourself enough to leave. Not like
Yeah.
life is too short and nothing is worth like
No.
wasting it on those levels of negativity and you know I mean those aren't even really like learning lessons, especially if you know that like the abuse is against you and that you're not responsible for it.
If it
Then
can be constructive and productive and helping each other, why bother? Why should you stick around?
right,
No, I'm gonna find another group,
right,
another healthy group,
right. So
emotionally mature and healthy group. Oh yeah. Don't get me. I don't. I won't get on another rampage. But you have to laugh. You
Yeah,
have
you
to
do.
laugh. Um, and 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 then a lot of times I think, then I feel sad for them that they don't have the tools to cope with life without getting all worked up and bent out of shape. And I didn't have the tools at one time. I used to be like this drama queen. Everything was such a big deal, and fortunately, I sought out tools to help me with that, and resources to help me with that.
Mhm.
And life is so much more pleasant now.
It is. It is the top of the hour. Actually, it's 7 minutes past the top of the hour, but I
Oh, it
think
is. Oh gosh, Lay and
we're
Lay. I'm
here
saying your name wrong. It's Lay. I
because we're
apologize.
having fun.
Thank you. Yes. Oh gosh, Daniel, Lay, Cynthia, Cece, thank you so much for joining in the conversation. We really appreciated it. I think all of us could talk about this for another hour. I'm so thankful myself that you all are here and contributing to uh, to your world and ours.
Well, let us know if there's any topic you want us to just sort of talk story about. We'd love to hear any of your topics. We'll see you next week, Thursday at 9:30 Eastern.
And may you have many blessings in the meantime.